There's not a lot of negative things happening on the gym floor, but this is different. You get somebody that hasn't eaten for 2 days because they're not hungry and they don't have the reinforcement behind it. They're going to crash out on you. They're not ready for really anything.
This is All Things Fitness and Wellness, uniting industry thought leaders and fitfluencers on the mission to inspire innovation and encourage people to live a life fit and well. This week on the ATFW podcast, I'm joined by Dave Appel, Chief Health and Fitness Officer at KORB Health Group. GLP-1s aren't new, but the way they're showing up inside gyms is still evolving. As adoption continues to grow, operators are seeing clear differences in how these members train, recover, and engage. In this episode, Dave breaks down what actually changes when a member is on GLP-1, where standard programming and expectations need to shift, and why this creates a meaningful opportunity for clubs that get ahead of it. Before we get to it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcasts weekly featuring industry thought leaders and influencers. I'm your host, Chrissy Van, and this is ATFW. I am so pleased when I get to welcome a new face onto the podcast, and I want to give a shout out to the Podcast Collective and Eric Malzone because he is the piece of the puzzle that put us together. Dave Appel, thank you so much for joining me on ATFW.
Thank you. Very excited to be here today.
Well, and I'm excited to have you because we are tackling a space that is not slowing down anytime soon. And for a little bit of backstory, Dave and I tried to do this podcast heading into the new year for that positioning, and circumstances didn't allow. And as soon as we were reconnecting, I was like, of course, this is all still relevant. If anything, rolling into 2026 with the news recently of Ozempic, all of a sudden the patents changing. So we're going to more generics entering the market, which means more users of GLPs, which means more opportunities. So before we dive in,
yes,
since you are a new face to the podcast, Dave, can you give a bit of a backstory of how you ended up in one of the fastest growing sectors of the market?
I would say I've been in fitness at some level pretty much my entire professional career. I started off as a physical education teacher. I'm from Chicago originally. I've always had a passion for working with people. And through the teaching position, I ended up from that having the opportunity to get to work with Polar, the heart rate monitor company. In the early 2000s, there were some pretty big government grants going around. And the school district I was with sent me out to Albuquerque, New Mexico, and learned about all this amazing technology to use in PE. And just really opened my eyes to like, there's always a better way. There's always to connect. It's like, the ones that get it. And then the ones that don't are like, well, at least now I kind of get a clue about why you want me to go and run, instead of just being like, go run. So I went and worked for them for, it was about 5 years, and started off as one of their education coordinators, and traveled around the country working with school districts. And really, I would say I got my PhD in heart rate training working with that company, and was exposed to so much. It was unbelievable. And then that just really opened my mind to everything as far as like growth. I'm a sponge when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So the opportunity to learn from some of the brightest minds in the planet was overwhelming. And then I decided to go out on my own after Polar and live in Austin, Texas. I still live in Austin, Texas.
Love
and
Austin.
Started a cycling company when Lance Armstrong was crushing it and everybody wanted to ride a bike, and kind of took a new approach to that, took people out on the streets live and put them through different things to help them learn how to ride better. And from that, I don't know if it's a poison or a good thing that my passions usually end up being a career. So from that, I started to get bored with riding I got tired of riding my bike, and I got into CrossFit, and I was like, oh, I love it. It was, again, the kind of the community thing. And then I'm like, well, I could do this. So opened up a CrossFit. My wife operates and runs that now. So that's been going on for 13 years. So very excited and stoked, especially in Austin. We're kind of you've got to kind of have something to what you're doing to be successful in this city, because there's so much going on. Nike just opened a couple of their pilot facilities here, and there's a lot of competition. So went out on my own and again, learned even more. What I've started to really learn is that I think that one of my abilities that I kind of had was building community. And through that, just really getting to know what makes people tick, what brings them into these situations. From there, COVID hit. Being in Texas, we didn't shut down for too long, but we also have a facility that has, what is it, 4 20-foot garage doors. So it's kind of like when they're all open, it's like being outside anyways. And actually met the CEO of the company KORB Health, Brock Rush, during that time. So started training him and his wife, and then ended up training his whole family, trained them for about 5 years. And so Brock is the CEO of KORB Health and is also kind of an entrepreneur in the medical space. So he's started 6 companies and sold them and started a 7th. And, we're always talking about this stuff. And from my perspective, I'm also a guinea pig. So I like to learn, but I also want to know what it feels like if I'm going to talk about it. And had a friend that traveled to California, didn't see him for a while, came back and just looked totally different and started to tell me about semaglutide. And I was like, what are you talking about? And which led down the rabbit hole of, okay, what is this stuff? And really started to get excited, really excited actually, about what all of this new potential could look like. So during all that time, I'd always tell Brock, hey, man, I'm going to try this. And he's like, well, I'll try it if you don't grow a 3rd arm. And so, just kind
Seems
of
like a fair compromise.
right.
Although
right,
sometimes a 3rd arm could be handy if you're entrepreneurial.
Right, exactly. You can always use another hand. And then he disappeared for a little bit, and then he came back in. He's like, hey, I'm starting a new company. Kind of walked me through what it was, and then asked me to come on board. And I was overly excited because it's the blending of the two for me, from my perspective, is such an opportunity to help the ones that I would say need it the most. Over the 30 years I've kind of been in and out of this industry, I'm a gym rat as one. A lot of us don't need the why to go to the gym. It's just like, I'm going, and it's a part of my life, and I'm just going to continue to keep doing it. As I started off in this role, I also do a lot of our educational webinars. So I really started to meet the people that are patients and really learned that I'd never worked with a lot of them, and so I got to learn again of like, whoa, what's the disconnect here? There's a lot of disconnect. It's not just a bias of like, oh, go exercise and you're da 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 da. It was really, there's a huge, so many different verticals and walls that mentally, physically, they are not interested in entering into. So through that, again, I'm like, okay, I see it coming. I see the opportunity. And over the past 3 years of being with KORB, it's really been that, again, more learning. And what is really coming? When numbers get tossed around, it's like 23% of the people have gym memberships, 24. If it moves up a percent, it's like, yay, we're growing. And it's like, well, in most business, 1% growth, there'd be a lot of firing going on. But so I'm like, what happens now when we start to entice this other group that has never been really exposed or even talked to about coming into the facility? Well, where are they going to go? And they want it, because now I'm seeing it. As somebody starts to get into their body again and actually feel the disconnect that they had, they get excited. And man, talk about the perfect person to walk into your facility. Somebody that's excited, they're on a journey and they just want to keep growing. To me, it was a win-win all around. So that's where I'm at today. And now I'm here and, constantly on LinkedIn and pinging people and talking to people and going to conferences and really seeing like, okay, who's ready? Who's not just kind of lip servicing this, like who's seeing it from a different perspective. And I think what I've said for the past couple of years is that a 5% increase to the industry would completely blow it up. It would inundate it to the point that I think it would be an overwhelming amount of people coming in of how do we go about servicing this entirely new demographic.
Thing that I find interesting, I just had Dr. Heather McKee on here, who's a behavioral scientist, and we dove into a little bit about the mindset behind GLP. And one of the things she said basically leaps off what you shared there, in that when the food noise quieted down, they actually were able to genuinely listen. And
Yep.
what comes with that part of listening is, what does my body want? And therefore translates into wanting to be a part of this. So I'm curious, can you elaborate a little bit, coming from that like CrossFit mindset? I've always worked out, never have to think about it. And being with those groups, what was coming up when you sat with them where you're like, whoa, there is a significant disconnect here?
So at our facility, we offer them. We offer the KORB programs. It's a very soft kind of just, hey, here's the information, QR code, scan it. And the people that started to come up and start talking to me, I mean, they, I have a relationship with them. So it's a much smaller ecosystem. So I'm able to do that. But as people are coming up, a lot of it initially had nothing to do with weight loss. I had food noise was probably the top of the list. One member of our facility, she said, I'll never stop taking it because of the food noise is gone. That I'm a busy person and I want that time back. I want that space back. And it's that really resonated initially. I was just like, whoa, okay, this is totally different. I wasn't expecting that. And then I had people coming up and they're just like, man, I can't lose that last 5 pounds. I just want to, if I can do that and get there, I come in and work out. So it's just it's an additive to what I'm already doing. I'm not going to stop this to do that. And then the one that surprised me the most was people were coming up and saying, hey, what's the reality of this in the drinking? I've heard that people cut back on drinking when they take this, and I'd much rather go to a glass a night than a bottle. And again, it was just another thing to me. You think, and then you start to get this feedback and you're like, wow, it's the furthest thing that I expected to have those questions coming. The weight loss ones are pretty easy. Yeah. Hey, take this on top of it. Keep doing what you're doing. Make sure you're eating, hydrate. You'll get there. But some of these other ones, I'm like, there's a lot more going on to this than we think we have a handle on.
Yeah, that is so interesting. And you've been to the conference circuit as well. And when the fitness industry has been talking about it, there's really been a very kind of black and white conversation of, this is what is happening. And we think it will grow and we'll see more users. And the statistics show that's where we're headed. It'll be $1 trillion industry by the time we're in the 2030s. Right. And then on the other side, it's like, we know that they lose lean muscle mass, so we need them in our doors. And then there's not a lot of conversation in the in-between because it was new territory. And so what I'm finding interesting, even about these interviews that I've been doing, even over the last couple of weeks, is we're getting real data about the mindset. Yes. And what this could look like. So I'm just curious. 2024, this was kind of like GLPs are coming, and there was a lot of debate whether it would be a curse or a blessing for the industry. 2025, you saw the momentum of, we're all kind of talking about it. We see some players in the luxury space that are for sure stepping in and owning the space. We know we want to play, but where is our scope, and this little bit of a gray line? So what do you think 2025 proved for us that's going to change the game as we travel through the rest of this year?
Great question. 2024 was a theory. 25 proved it. We secured 2 large customers, large clients, In Shape Fitness being our largest, over 88 facilities. And they took this and added it to not just as a supplement sitting on the wall. It's ingrained into their ethos. This is where we're going. We'd much rather them get it through somebody that we've vetted than getting online and trying to find the cheapest. And
there's a black market out there that's terrifying.
Yeah, I'm on a Facebook group that I go on every once in a while. It just terrifies me.
We might be in the same group. I can't help but troll because I'm so curious.
Yeah. And And I mean, when something comes out like this, people are going to want to find it. They're going to want to find what they can afford. And man, when it comes to the thing that you've been looking for, you'll take a risk here or there.
Especially this. Think how many for decades industry has been selling a magic pill or a magic solution or a magic fad diet. And I would
Yeah.
say a lot of individuals, particularly where weight loss is the goal, they've more than likely tried a few of those on for size. And the thing is, that cycle continues because people are looking for it. So to your point, yes, people will do whatever they have to get their hands on it because now we have a
Yeah.
solution that's proven to actually work.
And to kind of go back, circling back to your initial question, what led me here? It wasn't just the opportunity, it was also how they were going to build KORB. KORB is it's the people first that really resonates with me. Okay, hey, we're going to do this. We're not just slinging a new this, this is the weight loss drug of the choice right now, and then we'll move on to whatever's next. It was like, really, what does the quality of care look like for the patients that come through the door? And having people that meet just like you and I are face to face every month, building a relationship with, so they don't feel as lost. They don't feel as scared. They have somebody to go to when something comes up. That's a really big void in this space. Unfortunately, it's very easy to find it, but it's not very easy to get real live human being data, somebody to talk to, somebody to say, hey, this is really hard. And to have somebody compassionate enough on the other end to be like, yeah, I totally understand. But this is a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we need to kind of change the mentality. So having our providers, that come from different aspects of it, but a lot of them have already been working in this. So they're very compassionate. They care about, they have relationships with these folks. I mean, we've celebrated multiple babies through women taking the medication and, having PCOS. And then they get to the weight and boom. So it's way more than I think the sector has kind of put it into.
Yeah, I'm curious because you do work with individuals so closely. And as I mentioned, I kind of recently had a conversation on the podcast more about the science of behavior, but you're seeing it real time. So for GLP-1 users, how does their behavior differ from traditional members in the gym space in terms of consistency, their training preferences, and even just what their outcomes are in regards to goals? Because you have the medication that's actually taking care of what would typically be the first thing that's on the list when somebody's walking into a facility.
So I'll answer this in kind of two different thoughts. From a fitness perspective, it's like getting the person that it's a New Year's resolution and they come and they hit it hard for like the first month. And then you're just like, well, where'd that person go? It's that instant. I'm going to get fit tomorrow. But so you get those, but then you have the ones that are thoughtfully thinking about this. Like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is where I want to go. Do we have a plan in place? This is what we're going to do to get there. It's exactly that same thing on the weight loss side. When they start to come in and they think, oh, it's just a shot. It's magic. That's all I have to do. And then it's, again, having qualified people there saying, hey, I know you're excited. I know that whatever you've tried, and you've probably tried thousands of different things, but we still have to make some behavioral changes here. It's not just this one thing is going to make the change. And them reinforcing that you need to have a high protein diet. You're not going to be eating as much. So what you're eating is really going to affect you. You have to be hydrated. You have to make sure. So I think through that process, it's like a personal trainer. You have a relationship. You're looking forward to the next time that you meet with them because now you have some more feedback. Hey, man, that thing you sent me on what to eat or whatever, that really helped me a lot. And then in as like a little bit deeper into that, I think then they don't want to go away, even though people are price shopping on this. Mm-hmm. It's, where am I going to really have somebody that's going to tell me what's really going on? Mm-hmm. And being honest, we're not just going to titrate you up to the next level because you're not losing weight. Are you doing these other things? Again, the correlation to fitness is it's right there. Hey, We're not going to add more reps if you can't do what I already asked you to do. Same thing over here. I'm not going to increase the medicine if you're not changing the way that you're eating. And, we don't have clinical psychologists and psychiatrists on board, but it's granular stuff. I think in the fitness industry, it's very easy because a lot of us have lived it our entire lives, and protein, no problem. Most of the culture in the United States does not have a clue of how to take care of themselves. You're not schooled on it. You only are schooled on it if you choose to go into a profession that kind of leads you that way. So they're very oblivious to what it really means. These big companies that we're going not up against in a sense, but they have $1 million marketing machines behind them that are saying, eat this, it's low this, it's high that. And, in our webinars, I laugh a lot and I'm like, just eat the box, because usually the box is probably the same nutritional value as what's in it. And people are like, well, what do you mean by that? And it's like, I'm not saying you are wrong. You're doing what you thought was right. But now let's just kind of keep tweaking it. Let's look a little bit into this a little bit more.
Yeah, it's so funny to me that you get a new gadget, maybe you open the manual or watch the YouTube video on how to use it, and then we have these bodies and we're like, I'm just going to be oblivious unless it malfunctions, and then I'll go see a doctor. And it's very backwards. I mean, I think one of the things that's exciting in our space is we are seeing more and more people wanting to be active participants in their health journey, but you're not wrong. For the most part, there is a massive lack of education, and it's something that started since we were young. So you can't really fault that. Unless you are seeking the information, you're not going to have obtained it. I'm curious when it comes to clubs, though, having this GLP-1 conversation, and you don't need to throw anyone under the bus, but when it comes to integrating GLP-1s, what are some of the common operational mistakes that you've seen that could hurt long term?
If it is sold like a supplement, that it just kind of sits in the background, and if they decide to do it or not, the success rate is really not there. People are very smart. Why am I going to scan this? Is there anything you're providing that links me to that? So when you start to have other things, content, webinars, classes that kind of have this, hey, when you go and work out in this is what we're targeting. So it's you have to have the language there to drive and to expose them to why they're on it, and then what to do about it. Again, it kind of what we just talked about. It's really like kindergarten. Not that we're subjecting them and then going to talk to them like kindergartners, but the education behind it is that they have to be led. They have to really be led into this in a way that helps them to start to understand what fitness even is. And I think the thing that I've been the most excited about is removing fitness and talking about wellness. And I've seen a lot of companies kind of start to pivot that way. What does that even mean? Fitness to me, especially coming from PE initially, and then writing it through all of these years, fitness is a trigger word for a lot of folks. PE class or gym class was not fun. It was not entertaining. There was nothing about it that they were like, man, I can't wait to go in and get completely humiliated today in this class.
Ooh, the beep test. Let's bring it back.
Right, exactly. And it's like, oh, if you're aware enough to start to really pay attention to what you're doing and how it's affecting the people, it's a pretty easy pivot. I mean, this is somebody speaking from an ecosystem of 400 people, not 40,000 people. But even in the club setting, people are looking for community. They're looking for education. They're looking for somebody that can talk with them about whatever their journey is. I think it's kind of a shame that part of the intake isn't getting more information on somebody when they want to do personal training, or even if they want to join the gym. Like, okay, what are you on? And that piece, again, I didn't think about it till I was talking with a pretty large operator, and they're like, people are already on it anyways. They're on all kinds of stuff. Like, why have we picked this one thing out to really just hone in on the GLP-1? But people come into the gyms on all kinds of stuff all the time, and we've not really thought about that before. Well, fortunately, we haven't had it. If it does happen, there's not a lot of negative things happening on the gym floor. But this is different. You get somebody that hasn't eaten for 2 days because they're not hungry and they don't have the reinforcement behind it. They're going to crash out on you. They're not ready for really anything. So again, the awareness has to be there. It is part of the quality of care. Fitness, I love fitness. I love the whole thing about what it is and why it's there. And it has the ability to change people's lives. But it also has to be providing those little things to keep them involved, to keep them engaged. Personal trainers and their clients, those clients probably are the highest valued in the ecosystem at a club, because they have somebody to come in and they're just like, I'm not just wandering around. Okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes on the treadmill. I see that new machine, the booty blaster. I'm going to go try that for 5 minutes. And then they just wander around. So it's, we have to have the same intensity around how we program Pilates or yoga and all of these other structures. What is the experience that they get? Are they really going to have life change? What does that mean?
Well, and you're highlighting there too with the medical nuance, because I think it was 2 years ago at the Fitness Tech Summit. The theme of the summit was the convergence of healthcare and health club. So it is the direction that we're heading into. But I think you also highlight the importance and the massive responsibility of the industry, that if we are tipping into this world, that it has to be done with the utmost care, because there are very real repercussions if we do it any other way. But at the same time, it's worth investigating how to do it right in this industry, because there's a real upside here. And at the end of the day,
Yes.
I mean, this is a podcast built for executives. Nobody's going to shy away from the fact that the goal is to make money. So
Yep.
when it comes from a business standpoint, what did 2025 reveal to you about the revenue potential of GLP-1 adjacent programming? Because as I say, there's a lot of players right now that are like, do we, don't we, do we dip a toe? What do you think?
If I walk into Chrissy Van's studio and I work out with, let's say you have a small group training for GLP-1, and you're not calling it that, but you've qualified me and you said, hey, you've never done this. I want you to join this group. Come on in. Some days there'll be 2, some days there'll be 5. It's a bunch of people all learning. They're on a new journey. If I come in, I have a relationship, I start to feel better, I start to look a little bit different, my clothes are starting to fit different. Yeah, I'm on the GLP-1 as well, but now I'm also learning what my medical advisor's been telling me I need to do. When people in my world start to see me, they're going to be like, what are you doing? Well, I work over at Chrissy's place. I go there and exercise. They're missing the word of mouth advertising of an ecstatic, exuberant, excited individual that will bring in more people than any mailers or Instagram ad. It's the real heart of the heart. It's people telling people, this is the place you need to go. This is the program that I got on. Go in and ask them. Go talk to them. They're really cool. They asked me a bunch of questions. They wanted to know who I was and why I was here. We're just off a little bit. We're not really missing it. It's just, again, tweaking it a little bit. Let's tighten this one and loosen that one over here a little bit. Let's get a little bit more into the weeds of who these people are that are coming into the space.
Yeah, that community element is so important, because even you highlighted, and it's funny, I've joined a bunch. I don't use Facebook except for groups. And especially when there's a subject matter where I want to be curious about what's the mindset of the individuals entering the space. So I joined a bunch of GLP support groups to just see what the conversations were. And the lack of support is evident. And therein lies the opportunity, especially when you compound that knowledge with, for the fact, even for the regular fitness goer community, that social interaction, third spaces are becoming so important. So the timing really feels like it couldn't be any better. But if a multi-unit or enterprise operator could only focus on one GLP-1 related investment next year, what do you feel would actually move the needle? Because much like when an operator is thinking of changing their tech stack, a million things get thrown at you. And then you're like, not much happens when everything's on the table. So where would you recommend people narrow their focus?
if you're going to move into the space, consult with a company or a person that's doing it or done it, and kind of think about what other layers in this do I have that will enhance this, just this one add-on. It's an add-on. It isn't a takeaway from anything that you're already providing. Train your staff on all of the medical potential aspects of all of the things when people are coming in, hypertension, whatever it is they're dealing with. So you kind of start to, again, it opens up a question. It allows you to dig in with that person a little bit more. Well, why are you asking? Well, because, I need to know. I need to know if I push you too hard. Are you on a statin? Are you on something that's going to potentially have a negative to what we're trying to achieve today? I think that's probably the most amazing thing that fitness facilities do is they train and they build these people up. And now it's just it's another layer to it. Why is it so valuable to make sure that you educate them? They're on the ground. They're the ones that make the money. They're the ones that really help to retain and really help to sell. It's, and you're right. It is all about the sale at the end of the day. How do we increase revenue? Well, am I going to increase revenue by trying to upsell protein to somebody like you or I? We've already been taking it. We know a cheaper place to go. We have a deal with this group, whatever. But when you have somebody that, again, they don't know, they haven't been super educated on it. Oh, you're on a GLP-1. I'm glad you shared that with me. Are you getting enough protein in? If not, hey, let's go over here. Let's get some protein, maybe some creatine to add to that. It'll help with muscle wasting. It's a totally different way to walk up to the wall of things and to be able to offer them to them. That sale, I've never really seen that in a club, where this directly is tying back to another thing that I am offering. I'm not speaking as if I know everything and that I have the golden ticket to this, but from an ecosystem, no matter how small or big, it's still people, and they want personalized care. They want to be seen and heard, and then they'll give you the keys once you start to really give them what they're looking for and they trust you.
Well, I know we're just about to enter into the parade of conference season. So I'm sure that we will cross paths, but I will make sure in the show notes that all the contact info for yourself, Dave, is there. You said that you're a LinkedIn aficionado, so we'll make sure that your LinkedIn handle is in there so that if people want to connect. But I do want to thank you so much for coming on and sharing a little bit about this growing space. It's changing in real time. So any experts we can draw on, always appreciated here on ATFW.
Well, thank you so much. This was fantastic, and I really enjoyed it.
You've just listened to the All Things Fitness and Wellness podcast, hosted by Chrissy Van. Be sure to hit like and subscribe. We have new podcast episodes weekly featuring industry insiders and influencers. Together, we're on a mission for everyone to live a life fit and well.